Hi, I'm Amanda from Prana Thrive, and I specialize in gut microbiome balancing programs. And one of the areas that I most help clients with is resolving their IBS symptoms. And IBS stands for irritable bowel syndrome. So IBS can include a very large number of digestive symptoms, anywhere from bloating, gas, food reactions, loose bowel motions, constipation, or the irregular bowel motions between both of those, and basically just really causing a lot of discomfort and inflammation in the digestive system. There can be many reasons and triggers why someone develops IBS, but one of the most common causes that I see with the clients that I work with over the years is leaky gut. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about explaining what leaky gut is, maybe how do you know if you have leaky gut, and what are some of the things that can actually help to resolve that leaky gut that can ultimately help to reduce or even resolve your IBS symptoms. So what I'm going to do in today's video is talk you through some of the areas that I've highlighted in the article that I have on my website. So if you would like to read more, there is a link in the description below. So leaky gut is the common name for intestinal permeability. So this is when your intestine or your digestive lining becomes porous. And this porous or permeable lining actually then starts to become inflamed. So our digestive system has a thin lining or layer, and this layer should be covered with an important mucosa. And this also includes a combination of different beneficial bacteria. Along this mucosal lining, we have something called tight junctions, which are tiny little gateways. And these little gateways actually do allow nutrients to pass through from our intestines into our bloodstream. And those nutrients are really important for then energy pathways, digestive function, our immune system. But when our gut lining is inflamed, or we have developed leaky gut, these tight junctions stay further apart. And this is what then allows toxins and other microbes or even undigested food particles into your bloodstream. When this occurs, this creates an immune or an inflammatory reaction. And this is one of the triggers that causes a lot of gas and bloating that people often experience. And sometimes this can happen very soon after eating, or it could even happen hours later. So leaky gut is often something that is developed very slowly over time. But often by the time you realize, you have a long list of symptoms that have started to develop. So the common question I get from clients is what has caused their leaky gut? And there can be a few or there can be many different triggers. Now this can be from consuming too many processed foods or inflammatory foods, things like sugar, saturated fats, but even gluten and dairy for a lot of people starts to trigger inflammation as it's not being digested properly. And then also combining with possibly a diet that's low in fiber. And fiber is really important to feed different beneficial bacteria. Also then there are a whole range of inflammatory foods that may not be an issue for everyone, but one example is lectins. Lectins are also a type of protein. Just like gluten is a protein, it's often also the protein in dairy that people have an issue with. There is the lactose, but for many people it's actually more the protein rather than the lactose that they're not breaking down. And so when we consume some of these more difficult to digest protein foods over time, this starts to open those tight junctions, and then our gut lining cells become inflamed. And this inflammation then creates an imbalance in our different bacteria, and leaky gut becomes more of a serious and long-term issue. Another area is stress. So when we are either simply eating in a stressful state, that's something I really do talk to clients a lot about. Are they able to take time out of their workday or their day with their family, their children, basically to be able to eat in a calm state, or are they busy and rushed and eating very quickly? So it's really important to eat when we're not feeling stressed as much as possible, but also to address different stresses, ongoing stresses in our life as well, because these can really start to trigger inflammation and reduce our digestive processes that then trigger further leaky gut as well. And then there are more serious injuries and even burns. There is new research that has found that after a serious injury or serious burn, that the gut has become inflamed, and that has actually led to further intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And then even a more surprising one is engaging in more intense exercise, or maybe too intense exercise. We all know exercise is extremely important and movement for our body is important, and everyone does suit a different type of exercise. But if we are maybe exercising for longer periods of time every day, not giving our body that time to rest and recover, or maybe doing some lighter, less intense types of exercises in between, they have researchers found that this can also create intestinal permeability. And one of the reasons is that when we intensely exercise, there's less blood flow to the intestines. And this has then resulted in a buildup of free radicals, which has then damaged the intestinal tissue. Then on top of foods, we also have drinks. So consuming alcohol has also been found to create an imbalance in gut bacteria, but also inflammation in the gut that can either start or definitely add to that leaky gut. And one of the biggest triggers I see is gut dysbiosis. Gut dysbiosis is an imbalance of gut bacteria and often a low diversity of gut bacteria. This is one of the biggest causes for long-term leaky gut. Then we have ongoing infections like Helicobacter is fairly common, or a Candida overgrowth. These are the microbes in our system cause inflammation that also adds to leaky gut. But also leaky gut can be a reason that those microbes have also thrived in our digestive system. Then there are people who are more prone to inflammation. They may have an autoimmune condition. And so this activation of their immune system is also one of the triggers or causes to leaky gut or gut lining inflammation. There are many types of medications, not only antibiotics, but now it is definitely understood that anti-inflammatory drugs, also even antacids, so your PPI medications, that so many clients come to see me, and unfortunately they have now been on for many years and have really struggled to be able to come off those medications. And as much as they do help to mask the symptoms of reflux, for example, they are often creating more of a dysbiosis or even leaky gut inflammation. So that is something I definitely help people to be able to balance their microbiome, but to be able to come off those medications. Then we have some different nutritional deficiencies. Zinc, vitamin A, vitamin D, B vitamins, iron are all really important nutrients for our intestinal membrane or intestinal lining. And they also help to reduce inflammation, and they help support our body's immune system. So as you can see, there are many triggers to leaky gut. These are just some of the most common that I've just spoken about of what I find with the clients that I work with. And these are some of the very common symptoms. So looking at bloating, stomach cramps, gas, food sensitivities or food reactions, hormonal imbalances, depression and anxiety is actually a very common symptom linking back to leaky gut. Headaches and migraines, acne or other skin type inflammation and rashes, fatigue, even chronic fatigue, which I've seen in many clients. Then we have iron deficiencies, weight management issues, regular colds and flus, and also sinus infections and sinus allergies. These are some really, really common symptoms that link back to leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So now that I've talked a little bit about what leaky gut is, what some of the triggers are, but also some of the related symptoms, there are also other related conditions, which include inflammatory bowel disease, food intolerances and allergies, autoimmune disorders, thyroid problems, inflammatory skin conditions, mood disorders, chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. These are just some of the more serious health conditions that can be linked with irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut. So how do you know if you have leaky gut? If you had answered yes to any of the symptoms I mentioned before, or any of these listed below, like food sensitivities, brain fog, an autoimmune condition, inflammatory symptoms like dry eyes or allergies, if you have digestive symptoms, if you have an inflammatory bowel disease, or if you know that you're regularly deficient in certain nutrients, or if you suffer from constant bloating, then it is likely that you do have leaky gut. And then there are some specific lab tests that can be used to identify whether you have leaky gut. Here are a few. My personal favorite is an advanced gut microbiome test. This uses a DNA sequencing to identify all the microbiome species in your large bowel. Particularly a bacteria called Akkermansia is really important for protecting your gut lining. This test looks at exactly how much Akkermansia you have, and if it is low or not detected, then you have leaky gut. There are many other bacteria that are also associated with our digestive pathways and our gut lining, but Akkermansia would be one of the most important. So this is a test that I use with most clients to help determine all of their different bacteria. It's a very comprehensive test, and this helps me to assess whether they do have leaky gut and also the severity, but also the dysbiosis or other triggers that can be associated with that as well. So just to finish off this video, I wanted to give you a couple of take-home tips that can help to reduce gut lining inflammation or start to heal leaky gut if that is something you're experiencing. So definitely removing certain foods from the diet is really helpful. So things like gluten, sugar, undigested types of dairy, but also lectins that are found in a lot of beans and lentils and legumes. They can be quite difficult to digest. Then we want to eat more foods that support our gut lining. A diet high in omega-3 foods really helps to heal leaky gut. One of the reasons is that bacteria I just mentioned called Akkermansia thrives off rich omega-3 foods. So whether it's your chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, or if it's salmon, mackerel, sardines, these are really great foods to have in your diet to provide omega-3 that's going to help to feed those helpful Akkermansia or gut lining bacteria. And then the addition of fermented foods are really helpful. So we can use different yogurts, coconut yogurts, fermented vegetables. These contain different beneficial bacteria that also supports that gut lining repair. Reducing stress is a huge one, and I do find a lot of the clients that I work with that do have leaky gut and have a lot of gut issues often have a very high level of stress. Now that can be mental, emotional stress, it can be physical stress. It's often a combination of all of those, but looking at assessing the different types of stress and seeing where you can reduce those, whether it's changing your lifestyle and habits, or even if it's looking at foods and nutrients that actually help to support your nervous system, and then using other techniques like breathing, yoga, and meditation is really, really helpful. And that really helps to calm that inflammation in your digestive system as well. Then there are many different nutrients and supplements that can help with our gut lining repair. Things like vitamin A, vitamin D, B vitamins, and zinc. Glutamine is a nutrient that really helps to protect or reduce the inflammation of the gut lining. And then one of my favorites is a prebiotic fiber called arabinogalactin, which actually comes from the larch tree, and that really helps to reduce that gut lining inflammation and helps to heal leaky gut over time. And then we have certain probiotics. Now, some probiotics can help heal the gut lining, others can actually be quite irritating. So probiotics are often something that I highly recommend consulting a practitioner if you're looking to address leaky gut or if you have a lot of digestive system symptoms and a lot of inflammation. Sometimes probiotics are not the first thing that need to be used to really help to address that type of inflammation. And then here's just a quick list of some really specific foods. Bone broths or vegetable broths, if you prefer, are a really great way to give your gut lining nutrition, but also taking away the inflammation of digesting other foods. Then we have different vegetables, particularly our leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. Now, not everyone digests those well, but if you do, they are a really great way to help reduce inflammation in your gut and actually support liver function as well. Coconut oil is a great beneficial fat that also helps to reduce inflammation and supports leaky gut repair. Then we have the omega nutrients that come from grass-fed meats, free-range eggs. We have wild-caught fish that's very high in omega-3. And then the types of foods that I regularly recommend my clients are easy to digest, but packed with nutrition. So smoothies, soups, slow cooks, broths, they are the type of foods or meals that you want to be consuming when you have a lot of gut inflammation. So I hope you've enjoyed that video today and it gives you more understanding about leaky gut. If you have any questions, feel free to pop in the comments below and I'll get back to you soon.